So I'm in the process of doing a Ko4 swap, and I'm at the point now where I'm supposed to be taking off the exhaust manifold bolts, and lo and behold, someone can explain to me this. This is hand tight. I went to take it out and it wasn't even tight. Is that normal? Probably not. But yeah, that wasn't even in tight. Well, it's finally getting close to turbo time. I've gotten the old turbo off. Can't really film everything. It took about 8 hours of work for me. You know, unhooking everything, you can't really film it because it's just really hard to get to and pain in the ass. So one thing when you're doing a turbo swap of a Ko4 is label everything. Every single thing you take off, label it, okay? So, you know, you're like, where the heck do these go? Well, this one is intake manifold lines, okay? And then just every piece, get it in a Ziploc bag and label it. This is just like a short video. So with Ko4 right now, I'm gonna start transferring parts over. So like these lines get transferred onto this one. And then we're gonna be putting in studs for the downpipe and a bunch of other stuff to actually get the old turbo out. Once you finally unbolt everything, you know, you get pretty much, if it's in your way, you're gonna have to get it out. So like everything. But what I did was, if I go down here, put a ratchet strap on the engine to ratchet it back after you took the dog bone mount out, to actually give me enough clearance in here to get the turbo out, the top, because there's really not enough space. And some people say, or some websites say, just take the downpipe and move it to the side. I don't have a lift, so I'm on the jack stands. I really don't. Space is, you know, a necessity. It's hard to come by when you're doing this. So any more space that I can get will help. And I'm glad I took the entire exhaust out, because the previous owner, as you can see, everything's welded and with clamps, and you really can't get that apart because it's so old. So it had to all come out as one piece. But yeah, basically with this, I mean, it's in depth. It's not really a, you know, a beginner thing. So you really got to know what you're doing and do your research. But with this, you know, drain the oil, drain the coolant, because I didn't drain the coolant, and I learned because I got coolant all over me when I took the coolant lines out. I knew it was going to drain coolant. I just didn't know it was going to drain that much. You live and you learn. You know, obviously things that have to come out: battery, intake. You know, I'm going to have to change my spark plugs. But this line, you know, there's a heat shield here. There's another one down there. But you can find things online and start taking pictures of everything in the engine bay. Every vacuum line, where it goes, all the connectors, every bolt you label. And as long as you do that, you know what you're good for getting the turbo out. It's definitely doable. I was able to get out all of the studs without breaking any. What I did was I sprayed penetrating fluid. Sorry, I had to sneeze. I sprayed penetrating fluid on all the bolts while I was working on the car, before I got to the part where you take the actual turbo off, and that sat for a few days, and I'd spray it again. Just keep on spraying it until, you know, you feel safe to get it off, and just be very gentle. And none of them broke, but all the studs came out except one. So, and actually 2 of the exhaust manifold bolts weren't even tight. So yeah, they were leaking. I knew there was an exhaust leak on the manifold because I could hear it. And that probably helped, you know, didn't help when this turbo was failing. But I got all new hardware. That should be in this box. I got all new studs and nuts for the exhaust manifold, just because I don't want to put in the old stuff. And then putting everything back together is going to be a pain in the butt. This is going to be the most confusing part for me. Is the previous owner installed this forge blow-off valve instead of a diverter valve, and so there's a second N75 valve, okay, with its own plumbing. And so that's going to be confusing for me to remember exactly. I tried to take pictures, but I'm trying to put everything back to where it should be so it works properly. But again, I can't stress enough labeling everything. I even have more in here. And then on this car, I'm going to be doing a bunch of other stuff. So I'm just going to be fixing, you know, while I'm at it, basically, while you're in there, fixing everything that I can that's, you know, needs to be fixed. So that's an update on the car. I'm debating on whether or not to actually put a stage 3 software on the car, because I haven't gotten injectors yet. I got the Autotech high pressure fuel pump upgrade kit. Again, I don't know if I should put this on. I've got to talk with the Revo dealer in Louisville and see what's the best option for me, because I need to get this car up and running soon. So it's been sitting for way too long. But yeah, Ko4, definitely take your time. It's not the biggest job, but it's going to take a lot of time. And the biggest thing is with this is all the parts and things that you need to do it right. So you expect to spend a couple extra $100 in materials that you're going to need. So that's all I've got on that. I'll see you in the next one. So I took the bad turbo apart, and there seems to be zero damage visually. So it's got to be just the oil seal went bad. And there is a little bit of play, not in or out, not in and out, but like up and down, and you know, like this, because it can spin freely, but then if you put any pressure, so yeah, there's no physical damage here on the old turbo. I've got everything on the new turbo ready to go in. So this bottom coolant line, these that go to the valve cover, and then with red Loctite, I put on the studs for the downpipe, and then these are just here so I don't lose them. And then I'll show you underneath the car. So if I crawl under here, so this is basically why I took the downpipe or the whole exhaust out. It's because, you know, this exhaust tunnel gives me all of the access I need, and I can stick my hands underneath the underneath here and reach everything. And as you can see, I replaced 4 of the studs because they all came out. None of them broke, thankfully. That one stayed in, so I'm not even going to touch it. But I got all new hardware. You don't need to touch the bottom ones because it sits in there and then rocks forward. Then you bolt it on. I didn't really do anything I just cleaned the mating surface. I didn't really sand it or anything. So I just put the new gasket on with the new studs. And so it's ready to put the new turbo in. After that comes, really in my opinion, the hardest part of just remembering where everything goes and hooking everything back up properly. And that's where it's really just to look up tech data, or there's a couple PDFs online where it shows you everything and all the torque specs. So yeah, there's that. I'm just giving a brief overview of everything because it's, with this job, I could make this like a multi-part series, but I don't really have the time for that. So, because I'm trying to get this done with what little free time I have. And as everyone already knows, filming, you know, doubles that amount of time. So there's that. And while I'm at it, I'm gonna fix a bunch of other things. So next part of business, getting that thing to fit in there. When installing the new turbo, I can't stress enough, it has to go through the top. And so you have to ratchet strap it underneath, and you can use the whatever you can find to hook it onto the engine underneath, and then to the subframe somewhere. I have it hooked in just right here, and then to the subframe, because I was using the sway bar, but that wasn't giving it me enough. It was too short of a distance to where I couldn't actually ratchet it all the way. And I've been trying to put the turbo in and it just won't fit. So you're gonna have to ratchet strap to make the engine rock forward, because you won't have enough space. You have to be able to, and it makes it harder on this car because it has upgraded BFI motor mounts, and they're real stiff, and so it makes it a lot harder to make the engine actually rock forward to give you enough space or clearance to get it in here. Okay, so here's another tip that I wish somebody else would have told me, that I had to learn the hard way with doing this. So you're probably not going to hear this from anybody else, but it is extremely hard to get this in, okay, and out. Now, I was able to get it in with all the parts that they say to install before you put it in, but they get in the way. The tubes here and here that go to the back of the valve cover are a pain in the ass because they just get in the way. Now you can put it in this side first or this side first, because you can't like put it in, you have to turn it sideways, put it in, kind of wiggle it around, and then turn it again and then drop it in. Well, this is out for the second time because I was stupid and forgot to put a second crush washer on this banjo bolt here. So I'm going to do that now and put a new crush washer on it, or because what I meant to say was not using the ones I'm supposed to use. Supposed to use a different one because there's like a bunch of different sizes, and that gets really confusing. But basically, to get this in properly, I would install this stuff afterwards and just install the coolant line and then install your valve cover pieces afterwards. I think on the TSI, it comes with a block-off plate, and I think that's for the TSI engines, which would be easier, because even to get this in, it gets caught on this, and as you can see, putting it in, I like bent this upward. You can bend it back, but like I took this weather stripping and bent this back to be able to fit it even through the hole. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now, putting this back in for the second time after I put in the proper crush washers. Because with these, and I didn't know this, and it didn't come with enough crush washers. It came with just the ones that go on the turbo, and I took extra lines off, so I'm gonna have to reuse some, which I don't want to do. But with this, it's a crush washer on both sides of the banjo bolt, on all of them. And then it comes with different sizes, like I said. So like the ones that are slightly bigger, like these, go onto coolant lines, and the ones that are slightly smaller go on the oil lines like this, because the oil ones are smaller. It comes with a big one, if I can find it. Yeah, a big one. So there's one that's like real big, and so after research I figured out that this one goes to the coolant line that's facing the firewall. But yeah, I just took this off again because not having this on made putting the turbo in and out so much easier. And so I'm gonna do that and then put the turbo back in for the second time. All right, so, another week later, I'm picking it back up again with this Ko4 car. Just took the coil packs out and got the wiring harness. So this goes to the coil packs, which went all the way down there to all those sensors. Got this heat shield on, got everything here, which is a pain in the ass because this metal tube, which goes along here, has to be, you know, underneath these two lines. So I had to take this whole thing off again to get this on, you know. Trial and error. It's what happens when you work on a car and then you leave for a week and come back and pick it back up again. You forget the order of how things go together. But I'm going to be doing spark plugs on this car. For stage 2 spark plugs. And I'll show you what I'm using. But yeah. And here are the recommended spark plugs I'm going to use. It's recommended for stage 2 and like Ko4 up to maybe max stage 3, but anything further than that, you want to use something else. I don't know what that is, but this is what most people use. All right, so I finished putting on the intercooler. I had to mock up, make new holes to mount the front mount intercooler, the twin intercooler, because it's got the stock one as well, and this extra one up front with these pipes here. I got that on. Finished fixing some cracks in the car because this is an old car, and the bumper. There's reasons why you shouldn't drive a lowered car in the winter, because those chunks of ice fall off and it'll crack your front end. I finished putting the exhaust on. Downpipe is on and torqued. I think it's like 30 foot-pounds. Got the downpipe on, got the heat shields on, and the whole exhaust. So I'm pretty much done underneath. Now I've got to take the high pressure fuel pump off because I'm going to do the high pressure fuel pump upgrade. And then also before I start it, I have to keep this coil packs unplugged so that I can like cycle oil through it so the turbo has oil before I actually start the car. Yeah, battery. See here, what do I have left? Back in my thing of just, yeah, catch can pipes, battery, intake. Still have to burp the coolant system once it gets up and running, and reflash the tune. Other than that, we're almost done. And another thing I forgot, I need to put in the O2 sensors. Since this thing, everything is covered in oil. When I changed the spark plugs, they were just completely blackened from running rich and just covered in oil from when the turbo failed. So I'm going to change this O2 sensor because I had one on hand, and just and then the back one I'm just going to leave it. But this one I need to change that O2 sensor, or put one in, because you had to take it off, or I took it off to take the downpipe out, and then we'll be good. One additional thing that I'm going to do while it's in the air, while it's here, is raise the rear suspension because it's just too low for me. So I'm going to raise it about 1/8 of an inch, and then I'm going to install this. It's just sitting here right now, but this ducktail, I think it'll look pretty nice. So